Okay, class. Now I'd like to show you how to access your modules and actually complete your coursework by its due date. So I'm assuming that you've already watched the Getting Started video and completed your connection once and for all to MyLab course materials. If you have not, you should do that first because you will not be able to access the modules. So I'm clicking on MyLab and Mastering Assignments. Should basically look like this, except you won't see this little visible to students. And you've checked out the orientation assignment. That's not actually for a grade, but everything else is. This is when the business begins of calculus is with your module 1. So I'm going to show you something you might wish to do before you begin your modules. So before I click my module 1, I'm going to come up here to the MyLab course materials. And this time, I'm going to select the book instead of courseware, and I'm going to hit read now. All right, and then I don't need this tab window anymore, so I'm going to close that tab. And I've got, in this particular book reader, the contents are up over here. And let's say I want to navigate and maybe do some refreshers on functions and graphs. This chapter 1 is not actually graded, but you may wish to review each of these sections prior to beginning your modules. So your module begins at 2.1. So I might come over here and navigate to 2.1 and then come back over here and choose module 1. And this takes me directly to the assignment. Now notice that before I can even access the questions that pertain to the material, I have to access the resources over here. So each grouping of questions is going to have some required media access. Notice that you actually achieve point. You only get 1 point per video, but you do get scored for having clicked and watched the video. Now this book is also a resource. It's another way that you can get directly to the section 2.1. So even though I've got 2.1 over here, which I'll show you why I did that later, I can actually get to 2.1 as I click it here. And so there's my book through the module. And the only difference between this book and the one here is if I look at example 1 in that reader, I don't have this little icon with the video that talks about finding values from a function or a graph. So I can actually click on this link and watch a video. Okay, so this guy's going to explain that for you. And then when I'm done watching that video, close out of that. And the videos that show here are identical to the video that I just clicked. But here's the problem, is that if I've got the book open from this link and I try to hit that video, it won't let me do it. So I have to close the book from my module, but I can use this book and have the book open there while I'm watching the videos here. So I haven't achieved the score yet for this video because I haven't clicked it. So when I click on it, it'll bring it up, and this is the same video that we saw before, and it'll explain example 1, so you can take notes as you watch the video. You can refer to the book examples that he is referencing as you watch the video by having this tab open. And before you can get to your questions, you need to complete each one of these separate example videos or media on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to click through those just to get my points. Okay, and now I've watched these and taken notes, and I've read through the section. I'm an expert and I'm ready to do my questions. So I'm going to click over here and get started on my questions. Now notice that the questions are worth more than the video. These are, depending on the length of the question, it will be worth a certain number of points. Okay, and now you can navigate your questions like before, and you learned how to enter your answers if you need to use these different tools from the orientation. Okay, another thing I want to say about this is when I go to the module, I'm going to click back. I closed that module out, so you'll get used to the navigation when you use it a little bit. But when I go to this module, it shows me the due date right here. So this is actually due September 1st. And I purposefully give you quite a bit of time on the first module because you may want to recap some things. Like I said, you may want to go to your text and do some recaps from chapter 1 if a lot of the stuff that they talk about, if you need to refamiliarize yourself with logarithmic and exponential functions, for example. And then introduction to limits is actually going to be where you begin. Okay. And so another place you can find the due date. So when you've completed this module, after the due date, the score is going to get imported into Blackboard. And let me just show you that you can go to Gradebook, and all of the items, module 1 has the same corresponding due date as you see in the MyLab material. And so once you've gotten this completed, you'll be able to go to your Gradebook and see your score for each of these items. So you can consult the Gradebook and or the module for the due dates. So essentially you've got one module due. So once September 1st, once we pass September 1st, the modules are going to come due more quickly. So module 2, we can see that that's due a week later. So you'll start seeing that for the most part, you can expect Friday, the end of the day, starting with September 1st is when your modules begin due. And again, you can look at the course syllabus to verify the course schedule, when's the midterm, how much time do I have to study for the midterm, that kind of thing. Okay, and let's see, is there anything else we should talk about? Oh, yes. You are allowed to start modules early, but you should do the modules in the sequence listed here, module 1 through 12, and they all need to be completed by their due dates. In other words, if I finish module 1 by the end of this week, I can move on to module 2, 3, as much as I can fit in there, because they're all open and available for you to start, but they're staggered completion dates about a week apart until the end of the course, with some buffer time in there for the midterm. All right, so I've gone over time here, so I'm going to go ahead and leave you at that. At this point, if you need to contact me, send me an email, as you find in the syllabus, my address, and or call me or contact me, or if you're on campus, you can drop by during my office hours. Other than that, I wish you good luck in your course.